Welcome to another episode of the Rust Belt Apartment Podcast presented by the Cooper Multifamily Team, where we discuss all things multifamily with a keen eye on the Midwest's Rust Belt region. I'm your moderator, Peter Graylis, and as always, I'm joined by my teammates, Gary Cooper, Anthony DeMarco, and Brenna Berry. We're pleased to welcome today's guest, Mr. Ralph McGreevy.
Pleased to be here.
Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Northern Ohio Apartment Association, or as it's affectionately called, NOAA. One of the fastest growing apartment associations in the country, NOAA aims to support the profitability and growth of multifamily housing across Northeast Ohio. Ralph, welcome to the podcast.
Can I just change that a little bit?
Please do.
Northern Ohio. So we changed our name to Northern Ohio Apartment Association. We, about 3 years ago, took on Bowling Green, their apartment association. They became members of NOAA. We don't distinguish them by a chapter. And 4 years or 5 years ago, we took on Toledo.
Okay.
So we took over two associations in our region, and we changed our name to Northern Ohio Apartment Association.
Okay. Fantastic. A lot of our listeners span the multifamily gamut, several of which are NOAA members. But for those not familiar with your group, with your nonprofit, how about just a quick overview, the nuts and bolts of NOAA and what you guys are here to accomplish?
Sure. And like any trade association, our mission is to serve our members. And that's what comes first. We do it in many ways. Education, which we really need to double down this year on our education. We're coming out of kind of the COVID snooze and getting back to more in-person education. We're excited about that. Lobbying, we have a lobbyist in Columbus, Leah Pappas-Porner with Calfee Halter. She looks after not just NOAA, but the rest of the associations in the state. And social events, which we've started to do more of. Again, the COVID era kind of knocked us back a little bit. And now, we're getting back to serving our members in many multifaceted ways. One of the things that we do, which has been very successful for us, is we do group purchasing for our members. We currently do somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 million a year in gas and electric. We don't negotiate the price, we negotiate the discount. Sherwin-Williams has been a partner. We have the largest GPO in the state, group purchasing organization in the state, with Sherwin-Williams.
I know Sherwin's very involved with NOAA.
They've been a great partner. They're a terrific asset to the community. I went to the wrong office. I went to AdCom's old office on 6 before I came here. But
shout out to AdCom for allowing us to use their fantastic studios
absolutely.
Here in downtown Cleveland.
Very much appreciated. Very professional. But I was pleased to see the Sherwin-Williams building going up, the Welty flag flying, and the progress that's being made.
100%. Now you mentioned members, Ralph. Roughly, what's the member count of NOAA as of today?
We have over 500 members.
Okay.
And our members are about a 50-50 split, a little bit more. Excuse me.
Ralph just battled
pneumonia
here.
So my doctor tells me I'm not contagious. So get a look closer. I appreciate you guys being
for those folks listening out there. We're in AdCom studios face to face. We've got a couple of team members via Zoom. That's Ralph's joke.
But
500 members, 50-50 split.
Yeah. Más o menos.
Okay.
A few more property management owners than supplier members.
Okay. Okay. Supplier members you're referring to
Anyone that sells goods and services
mhm,
into our sector.
mhm,
So
mhm.
you're a supplier member of NOAA.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, I can personally state, you know, you join all sorts of organizations when you're in real estate, some of which are worth their time and cost, others aren't. Um, NOAA for me has been a pretty fantastic resource for getting to know owners, getting to know operators, and getting to know vendors.
And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. So it's a, you know, in Cleveland we've got a bi-weekly meeting, correct?
Bi-weekly,
Oh no, I'm sorry. That'd be a bi-monthly meeting.
bi-monthly.
In Cleveland, as well as out in
Last
Toledo.
Friday, we had over 50 people attend the network. And in Toledo, we're changing it. One of our members came up with an idea that everyone in Toledo, smaller market, knows each other. You don't really need to network at a traditional network meeting.
Mm.
I couldn't agree more with the concept. They want to do civic projects. And so our next meeting is to organize our first civic project in Toledo. I have some idea about what it was, but Jackie Hoover, who's worked with me for the past, I think it's going on 16 years,
Wow.
attended that meeting, came back with the concept. I was overjoyed. I really think that they hit on something that's meaningful for the community, for the members, and something that they can work on together as opposed to just networking.
Okay.
Here, you know, with 51 people, you have new people constantly coming in
Sure.
to the association in Northeast Ohio,
Sure.
as opposed to Northwest Ohio. And, you know, the networking has really benefited both the primaries and the associates to allow them to get to know each other and to be able to work better together. So I don't see any end to that, but I love the idea of the community projects
Fantastic.
in Toledo.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Hopefully the Bowling Green folks will jump in with them. They do from time to time. It's always been kind of a church and state thing down there, but you know, we'd like to repair some of that.
Good. Fantastic. Yeah, when I first joined Gary's team 3 years ago now, we had talked about organizations that would be impactful for me. I was in real estate, but didn't have a lot of multifamily experience prior to joining Gary and his team. And one of the first organizations he suggested I look into was NOAA. And again, not just because you're in the room, that's an organization, it's a networking group that has paid off in spades.
And I'm thrilled to hear that because that's what we're here for. You know, we're here to make meaningful relationships. I remember your first meeting. I thought that is the youngest man I've ever seen with gray hair. I went to college with a kid named Skunk, but he only had gray in one spot. But when you walked in, now it's very distinguishing.
Well, thank you, Ralph. I appreciate that.
It gives you a gravitas. Look, Anthony doesn't have that same gravitas.
So again, for folks who, you know, that's a bit of an overview of the organization. For folks that are thinking about getting involved with NOAA, what comes with a NOAA membership?
Nothing. It's I like to tell people that when you let's say that you're a vendor member, that do you remember the old Sportsman show down at Public Hall?
I don't.
Gary,
No.
did you go to the
I
Sportsman
do.
show?
Yeah.
There was a guy who I used to admire. He never got up. He didn't work very hard. He sat in a chair and he rented fishing poles at the trout pond on the main arena floor of the convention center downtown.
Yeah, I remember.
But then they said, well, what about bait? Well, I can sell you some bait over here. And then when he caught a fish, it was like, you got to pay for the fish. And no, we don't actually make you pay for the fish. But the bait is, you know, advertising in the magazine, showing up. Showing up to the networking is free. but coming to Top Golf, which we have coming up, it's a mixer. Take your shoes off, we'll call it a sock hop. But you want to get people together having fun. You want them to know each other. I have a simple philosophy that I've adopted many years ago: know, like, and trust. An association helps you to get to know people. Your constant and consistent interaction helps them to get to trust you. And eventually they may even like you. So, I'm not everybody's bread and butter. I'm the first to admit that. But know, like, and trust is what I always strive to do.
And that's what a big part of what you guys do, right? Is a lot of it's the advocacy and the explanation. Because again, you think about the public's perception, or even a tenant's perception, is the big, bad, rich landlord. We are all evil misers just looking to grind people into the ground and contribute nothing to the community. And apartments are a bad news, a bad investment, or a bad, kind of person you want.
Way to make money.
So, right, exactly. And not necessarily a great way to make money and you guys do a really good job of explaining, not only from, as you mentioned, some of the political action and the lobbyist kind of things, but just what you do to get the word out there and again, humanize a lot of what happens in the apartment industry.
It's a partnership. And I kind of abhor the word landlord. It goes back to the feudal state, at least probably 1,500 years ago. I like the property owner and the resident. And try not to use the word tenant, and try not to use the word landlord when I'm speaking, especially to the media. And it's it's a partnership that I need the tenant and they need the property owner. And when all this tenant relief was being talked about, people came to me from the different outlets and said, how do your members feel? I said, the same way they felt before. I said, good landlords or good property owners always work with good tenants or good residents. There's always been a partnership. If a resident's having tough times and they look like they could and want to get out of it, the landlord doesn't need to go out and evict immediately. They can play out the string a little bit and try and help that person get back on their feet. And it's really kind of a nurturing relationship. That's the way I see it.
Well, certainly in COVID, I think the landlords, regardless of asset class, but we're talking multi here, property owners who worked with their tenants during difficult times came out on the good side of things.
We were expecting the other shoe to drop. It never dropped. But it's been that way. I've been here 26 years. And it's been that way for 26 years. When I first came on board, the board at that time said to me, we'd like you to improve and enhance our reputation. And I looked at them and I said, you guys took 500 years to F it up. If you give me 500 years to clean it up, I think I can handle it. But, the misnomer of the landlord standing over the tenant with the stick is, it's so not the way of business. And one of the things I did at NOAA, when I first got here, I spent 3 years thinking I could put people into suites. That was by branding the apartments NOAA. It didn't work.
Okay. When you say putting people in suites, you mean putting actual people in apartment units?
By creating a NOAA brand, I could drive people to seek out that brand and to want those apartments as opposed to non-NOAA members. Very early on here, I threw out 2 very large members, asked them to leave. At certain points along my career path here at NOAA, I felt I was going to be fired for my, abnormal behavior.
Sure.
But I'm not taking money from people who do all the wrong things and then come looking to NOAA to help them. Or not even looking to NOAA to help them, but we need to clean up our act as an industry. And I think we've done that rather well. I really do. From the time I got here till now, people are much more conscientious about the partnership between the person who lives in the suite and the person who manages and owns the suite. It's a much different business.
Well, we repeat the mantra over and over again. It's a people business.
No doubt about it.
Apartments is a people business.
And people call me with we get probably as many tenant calls.
I was just about to ask.
Pardon?
I was just about to ask you
Oh
how
my God.
it's actually
You, so my staff is,
or for advice or whatever.
I don't give advice. I'm not an attorney. It's illegal in the state of Ohio to give legal advice, which is generally what they're seeking.
Right.
But they call and they inquire about, my landlord's doing this, what should I do? And we listen. Sometimes
First thing Ralph does, are they a member? Or are they not a member?
I ask and I look.
As you should.
And by the way, when it is a member, I generally call them and
It's
say,
like Peter's little Ignatius black book, are you
Exactly.
in the black book or not?
You a wildcat?
Yep.
AMDG?
Mrs. Brown in 414, she's got a problem. And I think it would be really nice of you to send your maintenance guy out and see if he can stop that thing from running. And they're like, oh, I said, well, if she called me, I'm going to refer her to legal aid.
Sure.
Excuse me. Or to whatever appropriate body would help her. But I'm going to have you try and help her first.
And that you in that sentence is the property owner or the property manager that you're reaching out to.
Correct. So we're, if it's not a no member, I tell them how long is your lease for?
Yeah.
Get a better landlord, get a better property owner, get a better property manager, find someone who will listen to you, and find an apartment that you can afford. There's plenty out there. You don't need to stay in that bad spot.
Sure.
So, I'd like to say that we advocate for tenants. We do, but we more advocate for the property owners.
Sure.
The residents, they have their groups. When I would tell you, which probably no one knows, but a very small group, Chuck Schulman and myself, and probably the rest of my executive committee, we offered to house the Cleveland Tenants Organization and to financially subsidize them because we believe we're better when they're there. People at the meeting thought we were insane, but there's a yin to every yang. And the offer was not taken up, but we did make that offer.
Very interesting.
Speaking of the associations and trade groups, so in about 2 weeks, Anthony and I are going to the National Multi-Housing Council meeting in Vegas for the first time that they're holding that there ever, which is sort of a kind of, again, a very important event in the multifamily industry. But how is the National Multi-Housing Council, National Apartment Association, the state associations? I know there's a Columbus Apartment Association, Cincinnati. Are you guys related? Are we separate? How does all that work, and what does it mean for members?
I believe we're better than all of them. And I don't say that facetiously.
Okay.
I think we have more to offer. Now, National Multi-Housing Council We're not involved with them, but they do the lobbying for the NAA, which we are involved with. So the two of them work closely together. And I dropped out of NAA, as you may or may not know, for almost 20 years.
For our listeners, Ralph, what does NAA stand for?
National Apartment Association.
National Apartment Association.
I want a return on my investment, just like every one of my members has an expectation of me to give them a return on their investment. They're investing time and money with me. They deserve a return. I deserved a return to be part of NAA, the national group. I didn't see it. I dropped out. I, about 5 years ago, saw something, a change at the NAA that interested me. We entertained a few meetings, decided not to do it, entertained a final meeting, and decided to join. I'm happy that we did, for a variety of reasons. And by the way, you're a member of the NAA by virtue of being a member of NOAA. Every one of our members, I pay for you every month to be a member of NAA. I recently got into an argument at NAA.
No. Really?
I know it's shocking, but I got into an argument with the head of NAA and the board about monies they wanted to take from us, which they were gracious enough to take it to a vote, and we won 21-20.
Wow.
That we would get that money.
Wow.
But the one thing that I told Bob Penniger, who's the CEO of the NAA, is you think my members are your members. They're not. They're my members. You know, they're your members coincidental, but you overplay your hand in thinking that you have some interest for these people. So just to give you a little background, I started out, I had an ad agency. I was part of a larger group, and all of my clients were national associations. And I really thought the paradigm is that the national associations do everything. What do these locals do? They get a little rubber stamp and they stamp their logo onto my beautiful pamphlets that they send out to their members like it's theirs. My goal in taking this job was to take one step toward becoming a national executive. I didn't really think that this job was for me. You know, it was, I would be sitting at the desk with my rubber stamp, stamping their beautiful material.
Sure. Exactly.
Instead, I found out they didn't have any beautiful material. And it was up to me to create my own beneficial programs. And so as we went along, I just decided I'm not getting any value out of this. We currently pay over $100,000 a year as an association to be part of NAA. Now, on the flip side of that, the return is about $100,000 in actual cash that rolls into NOAA. So there's a quid pro quo. If the quid pro quo wasn't there, I certainly wouldn't be part of it. And when they tried to take away a 5% raise that they gave us and actually give us a 5% decrease, that was what the vote was about. It's like, come on, you know, you guys, you need to serve us. We're your members. They actually believe that you guys care more about them than you care about NOAA. And it's just not true. I'm rightfully assuming in most cases. But National Multi-Housing Council is, I think, a little bit more of the brain trust of the multifamily industry. It has a little bit of a reputation as being a little bit higher up the food chain than NAA, or certainly than NOAA. So that's what NMHC is. And you know, I'd love to talk with you guys when you come back and hear what you think.
Yeah, this will be Anthony's first visit to NMHC. So again, we push the the Cleveland, Northeastern Ohio bandwagon, or even say Northern Ohio bandwagon here, because again, we do not fare well in the press and the national media, and there's a lot of the private equity and the larger institutional investors, and we've got to explain the Cleveland story to them, and again, why there's real value here, and
Right,
there
and not as much as you used to.
Yeah,
We certainly see the national landlords coming in.
yeah.
No doubt.
Greystar's a classic example. They didn't come in to run one building; they came in to run the world. And once you get them into the marketplace, it's interesting to see where it all goes. But when I got here 26 years ago, it was all family-owned business. I think Gary only had one customer at that time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Of course, they were a big customer. But
They were a big customer. That's all you needed.
that's all you. Well, because again, that's all that was happening in Cleveland, because
I understand.
nothing much was happening.
So I was here. You were here. What's happening today is so much different than that.
It is, right.
The amount of activity in Cleveland today is so exciting. And people ask me, don't you think they're overbuilding? And I said, let me go to the Old Testament, to Leviticus. To every season, there is a time. Turn, turn, turn. The Birds made it into a song, but it's a straight quote out of Leviticus. And this is our time to turn, turn, turn. It's our time to build. And it has me very excited to be part of this industry, and to go back to the national associations versus the local. Once I got to NOAA and spent 3 years here, I understood that my paradigm was completely wrong. The national does nothing for anybody, right? I mean, very little. The local is where you get your hands dirty and help people when they need help. So, it's just, there's two paradigms. Mine was completely wrong. And I worked for about 40 national associations, everything from National Association of Broadcasters to American Meat Institute, National North Atlantic Seafood Association.
You name it.
I had the alphabet soup of clients. My last client I picked up was the large show out in Vegas, the SEMA AI Hot Rod Show.
Fun show.
And I never made it to there. I signed him as a client and sold my agency.
Okay.
And the Schwartzes, who own SEMA AI, they had committed me to a personal contract to service their account, which I knew I never would, but I signed it anyway. And then dropped the agency when I left. But it was a fun run, but this is way more fun, and it's way more meaningful because you're really getting deep into people's lives.
Agree. Let's talk a little bit about the brand. So, coming from a background in the ad world, I didn't realize you were in an agency environment that focused on associations.
I owned it. I was general partner.
Okay, that's so kind of a no-brainer transition into a nonprofit like NOAA. We'll talk the brand. When I pull into a building that says NOAA Key Award winner.
Correct.
So you've got the Key Awards.
Yep, Key Awards.
Why don't you walk us through that?
So the Key Awards, I waited a few years and looked at a lot of programs, and then decided I would do none of the others.
Okay.
I would have to do my own, because what I didn't want was, there she goes, Miss America, and that's what happens in so many markets. There's, all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal than others. I wanted everyone to have a chance to win in their category.
Okay.
So we created a lot of categories based on the year the building was built, based on how many floors it has, and other considerations. And, there is a property of the year winner, but there's 9 other properties that are in the top 10 that come from every price range, every market condition, because if you do it right, it doesn't matter how much it costs, it just matters that you do it right. So it's a pretty equal contest. One year we had a very small building, 40 some odd units, win the property of the year. And it was the only building that the fellow owned. And I was so proud of him.
New construction?
No, it was across the street from the gates at Case Western Reserve University. And John Palmisano, you may know the name Luke Palmisano.
I do.
I'm sure you do. He's part of the Max project. Van Aken and many out-of-town developments. Luke Palmisano is John's son. And John and his wife Maureen bought this building. It got him off of doing long line salmon fishing. He was home, looked at it, bought it, and then poured his heart and soul into it. And he won property of the year. He had many offers for the building, sold it, and went back and bought a boat.
Now
So-
he's back fishing.
John's out in Alaska. Yeah, and his son Luke is building the new enterprise at Van Aken with the Radner family.
Now I know
Now,
it's a cute. Oh, go ahead.
What goes into your decision on who wins property of the year?
Well, it's not my decision, first of all.
Or no,
We
Community
bring, well,
effort.
not even Noah's decision. We bring in out-of-town judges and local judges, okay? They walk the properties. We try and make sure that the local judges don't have some inside baseball relationship to the property. And there's 585 possible points they can get. If there's not a pool, you scratch that 50 points or whatever. And the winning score is based on a percentage of the available points.
Sure.
So everybody has an equal chance. The quarter has won it 2 years in a row. It's a darn good building.
Yeah. So the first time a building's
Phenomenal
won twice in a row?
project. Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
the first time a building's won twice in a row
I believe
that you
so.
can remember?
I believe so, yes. And
When that was even going up or in the thought, would you have predicted that would have been such a winner?
no, I went over and saw Nick CQ at the site.
Uh-huh.
Being Irish Catholic, I've been Malachi's my fair share of times. I'm sure
Yeah.
you have too.
Yes, I am.
I call it the C and B scene,
No doubt about it.
but that was always a pit, place to dump your garbage before you went over the bridge.
I know. Oh, I
Well,
know.
that's when I first sort of looked at that, it's like, well, wait, yeah, this is brilliant. On an on-ramp, a garbage dump on an on-ramp next to the projects, and you can't tell me you're really in Ohio City or whatever.
Right.
You're at the end of the
Wait a
bridge.
minute, Hingetown, wherever
Yeah.
the hell that is, right?
Right, exactly. And it's like, how in the world is this ever going to come, let alone get the kind of rents that you're talking about? And it just, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it's
know.
unbelievable.
I think Snavely's and their partners just, did a wonderful job in execution and vision and getting it done and having the foresight to do that.
Yeah, we office on that location across the street at the old beauty shop, and the customer service, the maintenance, it's a great place to call home.
Yeah.
Ralph, how many of your members are non-local owner operators?
That's a good question, but off the cuff, 15 to 18%.
Okay,
That's it's still dominated by the local market.
sure.
Things trade here among friends.
Mhm.
Or enemies, but yeah.
Or enemies.
Sure.
And
The
to be
best dollar speak.
And
Yeah.
to be fair, right? I mean, just for anybody listening too, I mean, a lot of times and as of recent, I mean, we all know, right, that the environment that we've been in, say the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a lot of new to market buyers, and we've seen a lot of non-local buyers coming into this market. And, you know, a lot of times they'll rely on conversations that they have with Gary, myself, or Peter, where they're like, hey, connect us with the right individuals that are boots on the ground and that understand Cleveland, because they're from New York or Jersey or California or what have you. And so, you know, how much emphasis does NOAA put on like those individuals? Because that's like, to me, a perfect environment for everybody.
Well, here's a news flash. They don't just call you. I
Right.
get a call from almost every one of them. And sometimes they ask the most ludicrous questions that no one is ever going to answer. They want to know things that are none of their fucking business. But you know, I tell them to call City Hall, ask them.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
don't ask me, call City Hall. But I hear from so many out of town tire kickers and buyers. I have a list of them. And some of them have turned out to be very good people. Some of them are in a imbroglio of a horrible lawsuit with the local people that they contracted with because they don't pay their bills. Not my fault, but I have made quite a few connections for people. And that's another thing that we do. They come here looking for people to help them with these projects. And I try to never do less than 3 recommendations. You know, as a nonprofit, which NOAA is, you know, we like to bid things 2-3 times to make sure that we're spending our money right. And I think that those people deserve the same consideration.
Sure.
Over the past couple of years, you know, we've chatted with several folks who were looking to get into that multifamily world, locals, right, who may have owned retail or industrial or office, and see multi as this bright, shiny new thing. I can't tell you how many times I recommended, if you want to get to know our business, call Ralph and join NOAA, or at least go to a NOAA meeting, right? Because like you said, that is where you're going to start to develop those relationships with service providers, brokers, bankers, lenders, owners, etc.
And that's who's there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a many-pronged effort to successfully build a portfolio, and we have them all in NOAA. Whether people, you know, want to use them or go outside, that's you know, their business. But we do a lot of recommending,
And connecting, a lot of connecting.
That's our business. When I took this job, I interviewed with Joy Anzalone, now at Burton Carroll, and I interviewed with Alan Clutter, who was at Fred Rezepka's place,
Oh, sure.
Owner's Management. And they said, if this works right, you'll be the center of the wheel and everything will come out from you. If you don't do it right, we'll know.
You'll be under the wheel. Yeah.
So I've been here 26 years. By the way, I made 2 phone calls before I went to the interview. I don't know if you guys know Bill Lubinger at all. So Bill at one point, his last stint was a sports writer at the Plain Dealer. He's now a spokesman for Case. And Bill will, if he listens to this, not deny, but be embarrassed to say that there were 2 associations that had offered me a job at the same time. And one of the associations was run by a very powerful guy in Cleveland who he and I liked each other quite a bit, and he wanted me to take his job. The other association was run by someone who didn't do a very good job. And so I called Bill and said, can I play a little word association with you? And he said, sure. And I said, if I say NOAA, you say, he goes, run far and run fast.
Oh, wow.
I said, why is that, Bill? He goes, they don't do anything. And that sealed the deal for me. I wanted the NOAA job. Before I took it, the day before I took it, the other association manager took me to Pig Heaven. Do you remember Pig Heaven? It was one of Marlon Kaplan's first restaurants.
Oh, yeah, right. That's where the new hotel is being built. I keep trying to tell everyone
West
about
6.
that, and it was like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was
Marlon was a very
unbelievably good.
talented chef.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We went to Pig Heaven,
Pig heaven.
and
What a name.
the executive vice president or CEO of the other association, which I'll leave nameless. I'll tell you offline. He said to me, "Why would you do this? Why wouldn't you take my job?" I said, "Ohio State." I said, "Nobody remembers who replaced Woody Hayes." I said, "You're Woody Hayes in the association world. You've done everything right. What's left for me? I'm going to NOAA." And I called Chuck Schulman on my way to the interview. By the way, it was Chuck Schulman's freshman year RA at OU. And
Wow.
I
You were
said,
an RA.
I might not have been a good one, but I was an RA for 2 years. Fortunate for Parliament, man. I needed to figure out how to pave my way through OU.
You would have been the best RA ever.
I think my students got that. But I stopped at Chuck's office and I said, "Hey, throw me a couple buzzwords, like, he goes, you mean like NOI, net operating income?
Lost a lease.
He goes, you don't need that. He goes, you got me. If you want this job, you got me. And go in there and just be yourself. So I went to that interview, and 26 years later, I'm still here. It's surprising.
Ralph, Gary, I'm going to put you on a little bit of a spot here, just simply because Gary was in the business 20 years ago. Anthony and I were not. Gary, do you see an improvement in NOAA? I mean, has there been leaps and bounds over the past 20 years?
Yeah, no, I think it's continuously tried to improve itself, adjust to the situations that happened. As Ralph said, you go back 26 years ago when you started, and I was already in the business for 14 years. You look at Doug and Karen weren't Doug and Karen. Frank Sanito wasn't Frank Sanito. There was
Doug and Karen were there.
They were there.
Frank was there.
Frank was there. Yeah, they were much smaller versions of what they are now with big dreams. And but again, you had the local families that sort of controlled everything. And even the folks that, you said you interviewed with, hey, they sort of did it. So if you look back then, you were servicing the needs of a much smaller sort of environment. Then you've got to grow. It's like, hey, how else can I add this on? And I think Ralph every couple of years sort of reinvents, like, again, when you went to the aggregation and being able to offer electric and gas and some of the discounts. And again, any of the things that you've tried to do. So, each year they've sort of tried to adjust with the times, improve themselves. They're not the same association they were, 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Now, can they do things better? Sure. We can all do things better, right? You can point to any of us and do that.
Amen.
Sure.
What they're, I've just seen continue, they've never just stuck with the status quo. It's been like, hey, what can we do to continue to add value? What can we do that's of benefit? And again, I think Ralph's smart about it too. It's like, hey, can we monetize this? Can we make this so that it can continue, that there's a path to continue this, and not just like, hey, we can fund it right now, but 2 years from now we're dead in the water because, again, it just didn't make economic sense to do that program. So
Sure.
We've seen that. So, and they've come along and grown. And I think if you look at now who the board members are and their executive committee, and again, some of the players, it's much different than it was 20 years ago. And you see some new faces and some of the people that have embraced the business to jump in. In fact, like we were just on the phone a little bit ago with B. Patel, and I know he's heavily involved in the group now and part of the executive committee and on track to do what he's doing there. But yeah, and seeing, folks like that are young, energetic, smart, and are trying to do the right thing. And again, there's finding that support at NOAA that they are able to sort of do that. So,
can I tell you about my latest foray?
Sure.
So, just by the by, this has nothing to do with the latest foray, but during the COVID years, we were the fastest growing association in the country, both the number of units added and general membership. And I show up at a meeting and people said, how did you do that? And I don't have a paid LinkedIn membership. I have the free one because I'm cheap.
Sure.
But I use LinkedIn to look at businesses that should be considering Cleveland. And I'd call them out of the blue. I have a member in San Francisco who's, still with us. And I said, hey, what about Cleveland? And he's like, what about it? I said, are you going to stay in California your whole life? Are you going to move out? Are you going to branch off? What are you going to do? The company's called Livable. And, we met over LinkedIn, a cup of coffee on LinkedIn.
Sure.
I'm not a hoarder, but I am a collector. And I met a guy from Livable who lived in Oklahoma. And I said, who's your sports hero? He goes, Mickey Mantle. I said, I have a signed Mickey Mantle book. You want it?
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, what do you want for it? It's nothing. I don't sell stuff. I give it away. And I packed it up, shipped it off to him, and, build relationships. I'm in the relationship building business. And, they're still with us to this day. It's probably 3 years now. How are they doing? I'm not sure. I'm afraid to check with some people. But, we were out there during COVID making phone calls to strangers, introducing ourselves. We haven't stopped doing that, by the way. But our newest foray came off of LinkedIn as well. I connected with a guy out of Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
And has an educational program that he called Mini MBA. I didn't like the name of it. Thought that was ridiculous. Mini MBA, there's no such thing. And but the more I talked to the guy, the more I felt like he had something. The Mini MBA has become the Apartment Business Academy. We ran the first iteration of it. I met him probably in June. We ran the first iteration of it in September. Zaremba sent 7 people to it, and they've called and said, when are you running it again? So we had 13 or 14 people in the first class. What I did was went with B. Patel and Chuck Schulman down in Norfolk, Virginia, to an NAA meeting. Got 5 or 6 of my friends who run associations to participate with us in the Apartment Business Academy. So
another program that I had actually taken a part of last year, and I apologize, I don't recall the name of the event, but it was essentially like an owner's caucus where we got together.
Brainstorming.
The brainstorm session.
we do that every 2 years.
Okay. So this was an open invite to members.
Yep.
Specifically to owners and property managers, operators of apartment buildings, to get in a room and brainstorm.
Yep.
There was a moderator that led the event. We talked about different topics, lease ups, marketing, etc., and literally sat at a round table. There was probably 20 tables in that room.
Correct.
20 tables of folks in there, brokers like myself, owners, operators, etc. And we brainstormed about ideas and passed those ideas around. And there was a kind of a leader at each table that was responsible for collecting the insights, the ideas, and presenting it. And we went over it in a class, and I walked away from it not only meeting owners and operators that I was looking to do as a broker, but walked away from it just understanding the business even more so.
And that's with Apartment Business Academy, similar to that, it's Zaremba took people who are outwardly mobile, okay, and said, these are things they need to learn. maybe this class can do a good job of teaching it.
Hmm.
The class starts out with goal setting, and then it ends with the financials of the apartment industry. And it's not a deep dive into the financials. There's many employees who never get to see the financials.
Sure.
But at least now they have some idea of what they can do to add to the bottom line of those financials. So Apartment Business Academy, I think, has great legs. I signed a contract that anyone who participates in it, there's a revenue stream to NOAA. Something I believe in, creating revenue streams for long after I'm gone. And the education that these students are getting is something I couldn't have done on my own.
Sure.
These people have gotten, they've really won me over in terms of not only their intelligence, but their ability to communicate effectively the concepts that they're teaching. So, we're going to do our second iteration in the spring of Apartment Business Academy. And my hope is there's people from the LA Apartment Association to the Virginia Apartment Association, both those associations I've spoken to. I know there'll be people from the Wisconsin Apartment Association. I know there'll be people from the Georgia Apartment Association.
Nice.
So we're trying to spread it out. We're doing it slowly, making sure that the growth is right, the program's right in all markets. And we want it to be a national program, not owned by the NAA, but partially owned by the NOAA. So, it's we spent some money last year. Didn't have the money to spend in my budget. It's reflected in the shit show that I have to go to on Thursday when I explain last year's finances. But when you've been here 26 years, sometimes you do really well, and sometimes you roll the dice.
Sure.
And I felt like it was a good year for dice rolling. The year before, we took our PPP money. We sued the Cleveland Municipal Housing Court. David Goodman fronted that suit for us. We paid for it. We paid for the guy who he did not evict. We paid for his rent. We took that PPP money and we created a benefit for smaller landlords. And we, in general, don't represent smaller landlords. I have, I believe, 12 members total with under 20 units. And I've had Sherwin-Williams and Home Depot offer to help me gather up hundreds of smaller landlords. I like to deal with the professionals. I think that my staff of 3 with Brianna and Jackie is capable of handling the professionals. But if I did bring in the hobbyist, as I like to call them, the 20 unit and under crowd, I just couldn't handle the amount of questions and needs that they have. So we kind of know who we are. We preach to our own choir, and we try and win in our own space.
Now, Ralph, for folks looking to perhaps join NOAA, any requirements to join the group?
Breathing and have some money in their wallet.
Okay. And obviously an interest or already an interest in the multifamily world.
Yeah,
There's no unit count you need to hit. Or...
No, like I said, I have 12 members under 20, but I think Doug and Karen were there once.
Oh yeah,
They probably were.
Oh yeah, they show up.
And we certainly will never take credit for anyone's success. They are hardworking people. And this past year, if you were at the Key Awards, we gave Doug the Person of the Year award for what he was able to do with property taxes, which, Rob Rissman and myself and others have been trying to do for 26 years. He was able to get it done. Having people like that is such a benefit to all of us. because it didn't just benefit him,
Mhm.
benefited
The region.
everyone in the business.
Mhm. Mhm.
It benefited the state.
The state, yeah, good point.
So, you know, we are the largest association in Ohio, but we're not so large that we don't want the 20 and under.
Mm.
If they're in the business to do the business. You
Yeah,
know,
and I could say to any listeners out there who maybe have 12 units and are a little on the fence of joining NOAA, you're not going to be overlooked by any means. You'll probably be picked on and singled out by Ralph.
no one gets away unscathed.
So I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Suites Magazine. I've got a
Yes.
copy of the Winter 22 edition in front of me here. Just a quick overview of Suites for our listeners out there.
So, Sweets is a magazine that I started when I got there. And it's a rough business.
Oh,
And I found a company online called E&M. They're out of St. Paul.
okay.
And they took over the magazine and the directory. We provide the content and the photos. If we need fill-in content, they have it there to provide.
Sure.
But generally, still our magazine. They handle all the sales of the ads. They handle the
Here, you want to
layout.
hold up the cover so people can see? There you go.
So that photo, my good friend Sean Reck, who owns a studio down the street on Euclid Avenue, he has a drone, and he pulled up in front of my office, and I hopped in his car. He opened the sunroof and popped his drone out, and that's a drone photo. And then he recalled the drone, and he had it land on the top of the car.
That's
And I
all.
said, why did you just bring it in? He said, because I did that once and I cut my fingers on the blades. But it's so amazing to me that he did the entire complex by drone video in 20 minutes. And never left his car, didn't get out of the car. You know, he reached up and grabbed the drone and pulled it in once the
And the most
Hey.
recent shot of Suites Magazine is of some solar panels on the Kiefer's building at 25th or 28th.
now it's called
in
the Forest
Detroit.
City Building.
Forest City building, with a shot of the Cleveland skyline. But Suites is, obviously a nice magazine that arrives quarterly.
Yes,
Quarterly magazine. Plenty of market information in it, along with some editorial.
always looking for contributions.
Yeah, always looking for contributors to Suites Magazine. So any members out there that think they may have
Story to tell.
get in touch, please do.
Members only.
Members only.
It's like the jacket from the 80s.
We still have
Yeah, you
clients
were
that
gonna
wear
ask
them.
something? Oh, yeah, I had a members only jacket, but only because a friend left it in my dorm room.
Anthony, did you have a question for Ralph?
I don't think so, no. I was just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
bring up Trevor Bauer when he missed the playoff game because of the drone,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope we re-sign Trevor Bauer. I
right?
don't know what he did, but like I told my wife, I don't look at athletes for
Personal inspiration?
no, I don't look to athletes for moral compass.
Moral.
You know,
Exactly. So,
I'd be remiss if I
Wow.
didn't say,
Think of Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth if you tell the stories about them today. With Trevor Bauer, we could have him be roommates with Deshaun Watson, and it would be just
the Cleveland.
Oh. Gary, I don't know how well you knew Judge Bianca.
a little bit.
Okay, so I was fortunate enough that when I had my ad agency, I met the judge. I decided to do some pro bono work with a Cleveland group called Living in Cleveland Center.
Uh-huh.
I had dinner with Ray and Karen on their front porch on Franklin Avenue, where Karen still lives. And I told the judge that as long as I had this job, he would be my moral compass. And I went to him for a lot of moral questions. They weren't legal questions about the property owner and the resident. There were more moral questions.
Mhm.
And it's nice in this business to have a moral guide.
Yeah.
And when Ray passed away, I was crushed. He was very important to me, and gave Noah a lot of great sage advice
Great man.
along the way. Yeah. But we spent our PPP money suing his second predecessor, who is no one's moral compass, certainly not mine, and won. So it's a lot of times I say, I remember writing that paper, what did you do on your summer vacation when you got back to sixth grade class? That's what we did with our PPP money.
Ralph, what's in store for 2023 for NOAA members? What sort of events we have going on here? And we've got a Top Golf event coming up.
Coming up, Top Golf, which is just a fun, cocktail party with a golf game involved. I laugh when I go there. I see guys walking in with a full set of clubs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what did you think?
That's probably Anthony, though. I can see Anthony showing up to Top Golf with his full set.
I'm going to keep it real, Peter. I golf every weekend, and I've never been to Top Golf one time in my entire life.
Wow.
You golf every weekend now?
Yeah. For the reasons that Ralph is talking.
Now.
Where do you golf now?
Well, obviously we every weekend in our Ohio time frame in our time block.
I live out in Huron. I see people going out at the golf course out there, Thunderbird. This morning I'm driving to the freeway and I see there's probably 14 guys standing up around the starter shack.
I'd rather go to a indoor simulator than Top Golf. More.
That's more like golf. Have you been to the one down in the flats on the east bank of the flats? So there's a golf simulator there on I believe it's Carter Street that is just beautiful. I went to a bank event down there and proved that I can't play the golf simulator very well, but I can't play golf very well, so it's no different. But it was quite a lot of fun, and there was only one other person there, and it was a young gal who was on the Kent State golf team, and her father walked in, and he was a client of mine at the ad agency.
Wow.
So it was like, oh my God. So it's a small world, but that is a beautiful place. You get a chance to get down there.
So I've heard. And that quotes our mutual friend from our conversation today, what he said about Cleveland. He said, it's a small world in a big city because we have a lot of real good players that are coming in. And, although it is so tight and just the degree of separation is just so small, you're starting to see Cleveland act as if it's not so small anymore.
Right.
Well said.
I agree. So you asked what's new coming up. One of the things I'm excited about is I kind of dissolved all of the committees when I took over this job.
Okay.
I like to run my own show, but after 26 years, I realized I need a lot of help. So I put a marketing committee together, which is really done. They planned that party that we had at the holiday time. And it was a great party, very well attended. We gave away a signed Nick Chubb ball, which, one of the committee members was able to get that donated, which was fantastic.
I think that was Anthony's favorite place, Electric Gardens, right?
It was at Electric Gardens. And it was really quite nice. It was a nice party. But one of the things that we're doing new this year is Marcia Woznicki, who's our current president. She is going to start a education committee. And we're looking for committee members to help us develop a slate of education for each of the upcoming years. I didn't do a good job last year with it. Just kind of got away from me. So it's like, yeah, I need help. So at Thursday's board meeting, Marcy's going to formally accept the position, I hope. And we're going to get our committee together. So we're excited about that. We have the Maintenance Mania coming up, which is just a day to celebrate all the maintenance people, professionals. It's a fun thing. They compete against themselves. I was in Cub Scouts for one day. I have horrible allergies and found out I couldn't go on the sleepover. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. You know? But one of the things the Cub Scouts do is they build these little cars and they have a track that they race against the others. We have the maintenance people do that. We provide the wheels. They provide the rest of they can use anything from their maintenance shack to make this car. And it's quite an interesting event. And they compete against each other for, you know, the Audience Choice Award and fastest car. They all get time. But beyond that, there's, I think, 9 workstations, and they do different tasks at each station. It's all time. If they're good enough, they go to the national. We haven't sent anyone from the national, but that could happen.
There's actually a national maintenance mania
There
that
is.
all the associations send folks to.
Yeah, well, they have to be in the top 15 or
Hit certain benchmarks. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But this year it's in Atlanta.
Okay.
So, you know, that's kind of a fun event. It was something that I didn't want to do. And then the first year we did it, I'm like, okay, I was wrong again. You know, people showed up and they had T-shirts made and cowbells and, you know, just what we need.
Well,
Cowbell.
what I've experienced at a lot of your events is you're not sitting there listening. Someone's not just speaking at you. And you're not sitting there for 2 hours on your hands as someone talks down to you. They're interactive.
Right.
You know, you're there to learn and interact with other folks in the industry.
So my philosophy about running NOAA, I can sum it up very succinctly. Inclusive, never exclusive. And we always want to be inclusive. If somebody's a member out there and they happen to be listening to this and they don't feel included, 216-408-1458. That's my cell phone. Call me. I'll make sure that you feel included. But I believe that success comes with inclusion, never exclusion. I've been to a lot of association meetings and I find so many of them to be exclusive. You know, like you pay to watch the 9 people who are in charge have fun.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? This is about, I want everybody to have some fun. So, yeah, we try and have fun. We try and get a good education. We work hard on our legislative agendas. We go to DC, we walk the Hill. We go to Columbus, we walk the Hill. We look for purchasing partners that matter, that make a difference in people's lives. And, you know, we're always open to ideas and suggestions.
And to close, I'll ask you the most important question, which is a non-apartment question.
My wife's name is Holly. And if I didn't mention her, no, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Which is best new Cleveland restaurant 2022.
Oh,
You know,
As people may not know, so you're a little bit of a food critic, a professional food critic, and that was you don't do it anymore, do you? Or do you do a little bit of it?
No, 12 years ago I stopped, and my partner Sean, who did the drone video, he and I started a place called Pinpoint Media, and neither one of us knew how to operate a camera, and we had a television show called Crime Stoppers Case Files Cleveland, and we managed to take that from Cleveland to Miami, from Miami to LA. We were on KCAL, home of the Lakers, to Chicago. We sold it, made our first movie, lost about $300,000 on the movie, but Time Magazine saved us. Time Magazine did a story. Now that you're done binge watching Making of a Murderer, here's the 15 most fascinating true crime docs ever made, and our movie was in the 15.
There you go.
We made that money up and then some, and we probably got, I don't know. We have a lot of things. We have a new business. Chris Hansen's our partner. I don't know if you remember Chris Hansen from To Catch a Predator. Well, now it's called Takedown with Chris Hansen. We started a streaming service called True Blue. And I'll tell you a little bit about that off camera because I think you'll find it interesting. But True Blue has been an immediate success, and we're riding on the back of Chris Hansen. There's no doubt about it. But we have some other talent that is very good on the show. Bob France, who did our TV show, we have him on doing a weekly show for us. So we have our own streaming service called True Blue. Restaurants, my days of fine dining are over. I've gotten myself from a high of 275 when I was a food critic. Wow. Because people give you free food everywhere.
Yeah.
Not when you're reviewing them. When you're not reviewing,
Sure.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
But I'm back down into the 210 range. So I tend to go to places. I love the Asian restaurant scene in Cleveland. The whole gamut of the Asian scene. I love it all. I like small little shops. My idea of fine dining, probably my favorite, Dante. I go there quite often.
Fantastic.
But I also love on the lake over in Lakewood.
Here.
Pardon?
Pure W.
Pure W. Thank you, Gary. Pure W.
Yeah, Pure W is just a
classic spot.
And hitting on all cylinders. Food's good, but there's a lot of new restaurants that I've heard of in the last 4 weeks, and none of them have I been to. I'm going to a mixer at a place called Pioneer. Have you heard of that?
Oh, that's the one in Intro, the new apartment building Harbor did over. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in.
I've heard good reports about it. We were going to go. In fact, we had a happy hour, a team happy hour scheduled, and it wasn't able to happen.
Fizzled.
Yeah, I'm very excited to go to Intro. We're going to the restaurant Pioneer in Intro at the end of the month.
Nice.
Yeah, but I have just not been. We moved to Huron from Rocky River. There's not a whole lot going on that's new in the Huron scene.
Sure.
So we go to Columbus quite a bit, and Quinton Bay, and in this time of year, Port Clinton, Marblehead. But my dining days, I'd like to think are in my past.
Well, the last time we dined with you was at Bruno's.
Love Bruno's. Bruno Di Siena, Judge Bianca turned me on to that restaurant. And it's the only restaurant, my grandmother's Italian. And they owned an Italian restaurant in Chicago. And he has the only sauce in Cleveland that tastes like my grandmother's.
Oh, wow.
So, I go for the sauce.
Go for the sauce.
Yeah, the sauce.
Yeah, it's, I reviewed quite a few Italian restaurants. One of them I reviewed was, purportedly owned by, some very powerful men. And by the way, there was a Cadillac limo near my house at that time, which kind of bothered me. But
based off a bad review.
Why's it got to be a Cadillac?
It was a Cadillac. But, my grandmother was a Taglia, so I only speak with one hand because I'm Irish on the other. But I called the restaurant and I talked to the chef after the review, and I said, "Look," he goes, "I use San Marzano tomatoes." I said, "They are so acidic." And I said, "I can fix your sauce. If you give me a chance, I can fix your sauce and those tomatoes." I said, baking soda is the great equalizer of neutralizing acid. Sugar hides acid. I said, that is 101 for any good Italian cook, is you don't use sugar, you use baking soda.
I was going to say, you can't use sugar, though. So I was nervous where you were going to go with it.
No, you cannot use sugar.
Sugar, all right.
Sugar's a masker.
Bravo, Ralph, bravo.
Baking soda is a neutralizer. And, that was my grandmother, she said, you put it in and the sauce rumbles. And you put it in and the whole top of the sauce comes alive. And then you steer that neutralizer throughout the dish. I mean, it's, so easy. But I was the first male in the Parma school system to take home ec. And I talked to a buddy of mine, Gary Roach, into taking it with me. And the Plain Dealer came out and did a story on me. On, why would you do this? I said, there's 30 girls and me.
I like the odds.
And we get to eat what we cook. And they said, but they're sewing. I said, my father works for Swiss Elma. I said, I've been sewing since I was a kid. I said, I can sew and I can cook. But I used that picture from the Plain Dealer when I applied for the job as the food critic. It was my cover photo, me at 15. Luckily, I had no pimples.
In home ec class.
Plenty of fudge, but no pimples. And I used it as the cover photo for my resume.
That's fun.
It apparently worked.
10 years worth. 10 years. I wrote Society for 2 years, Food for 8. And then I went to travel and realized that I really do like my job. And if I take these 2 travel assignments they want me to take, I'll probably lose my job. Places I'd like to go, but places I can't go.
Gotcha. Do you see what can of worms you opened, Gary, talking about food and restaurants with this man?
I like to talk food, not so much restaurants anymore.
Well, good, Ralph. Hey, wanted to appreciate you. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate your time.
You having me.
For any folks out there who want to get some more information on NOAA, you can visit their website. It's noaamembers.com. Ralph, Jackie, or Brianna, I'm sure would be more than happy to take a call or an email if you have any questions about the group. And again, thanks again, Ralph. We appreciate you.
Great to be here. Appreciate the time. And thank you for being members. Appreciate that as well.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks, Ralph.
Not my pleasure, for sure.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody listening. Have a great